والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان ليوم الدين أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala's praises has blessed us to gather once again in our Monday gathering, and for those watching at home has allowed them to watch this gathering, inshallah, where we may benefit from. Now, inshallah, we'll be today talking about a different topic. We'll be taken from the chapter of purification from a book called Nur al-Idah, a fiqh book. Now, for those who may be wondering what is fiqh, fiqh is that which is basically the rules and the regulations of Islam. Okay, so things that we would do in our daily lives, or the way we do a certain thing, okay, when it comes to religion, like prayer, like fasting, and the likes. Naam. And fiqh is of two types. Within fiqh you have two types. You have ibadat and you have mu'amalat. Ibadat is that which pertains to your worship. For example, the normal categories that we know: salah, saum, fasting, hajj, zakat. Okay, this is everything which pertains to worship. Then you have mu'amalat. Now mu'amalat is slightly trickier. Okay, mu'amalat of fiqh is something which there is a lack of knowledge in our communities between the awam and the ulama. The mu'amalat is that which is your interactions, meaning buying, selling, okay, marriage, okay, the rules of interest. If I have a product and it's not a physical product, it's a digital product, and is that halal, isn't that haram, cryptocurrency, all these fiqh rulings fall under mu'amalat. Okay, so those are the two types under fiqh. You have ibadat and you have mu'amalat. Naam. So inshallah we'll be continuing on with ibadat, not mu'amalat. Okay, and naam, we're going to start off inshallah from the beginning of the book. It won't be it'll be a recurring thing here and there, but it won't be a thing where we're going through the whole book, but there will be some selected chapters we'll do here and there. Now, a lot of fiqh books, or shall I say majority of the fiqh books, they start with wudu. Okay, usually they start with wudu, or some smaller books they might include things that are not really fiqh related, things that are aqidah related. But in this particular book, written by Imam Shrumbulali, an modern Egyptian scholar. When I say modern, okay, mu'asir, he's a modern scholar. I don't mean modern as in he died 20 years ago, born 20 years ago, or even 100 years ago. Okay, we have like the Salaf, we have the people who are near to the Prophet's time, and then we have the more modern ones who are about 600-700 years ago. That's what we mean by modern. Okay, so the more modern scholars, so he's part of them. Now, in terms of Hanafi fiqh book, this book is a madkhal. This book is an entrance, an introduction. It's a very strong introduction to the Hanafi madhab, the Hanafi school of thought. Now, for the common man to study this from the get-go, it may be quite big for that person. Okay, and why do I say that? Because a book like this, if it's studied, if it's understood by the common man, then inshallah he has enough fard for his ibadat. He has enough fard al-ain knowledge. He has enough knowledge for worship, for pertaining to himself and people around him. Now he talks about water. He starts off the chapter of purification with water. He starts off with water. Okay, he didn't start with wudu. He didn't start with ghusl. None of them. Why? Because in order for your ghusl to be correct, in order for your wudu to be correct, you must ensure that you have a certain quality of water. So this is why he starts with this. Now, the first thing he mentions is, the types of waters that are permissible to use. i.e. the different sources of water. Now, to keep it simple and short, anything which has is a natural source of water, that's pure for us. Okay, and he mentions here ma sama, so water of the sky, i.e. rainwater. Okay, and now due to the statement of Allah, he mentions a proof from the Quran, and then he talks about that rain descended from the heavens, i.e. from the sky. Okay, then he mentions ocean water. He mentions ocean water as the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad says that that its water is pure and its dead is pure from the water, meaning, and it's lawful as food. That's why fish, you don't have to slaughter fish. Fish is pure as it is. So you have rainwater, ma' sama, they have ma' al-bahr. And then we have ma' al-nahar. This is the river water, it's a natural source of water. They have ma' al-bi'r. Bi'r, na'am, someone may say, oh, you've created wells and so on and so forth, but still is somewhat natural. Why? Because you dig into the ground and you find water there, okay? You dig enough, okay? You dig deep enough and you will find some water and you will build a well around it, okay? Ma' al-thalj. Ma' al-thalj, okay? Just before we get there, river water, he mentions here in the book that there are few rivers of Jannah, meaning there's a few rivers of the dunya you're going to find in the hereafter. Sayhan, Jayhan, the Euphrates and the Nile. These 4 dunya rivers that currently exist in the dunya, these rivers will also be present in Jannah. So they're rivers of Jannah. And of course we know River Nile is quite famous, Sayhan, Jayhan, and the Euphrates one of course is very famous, and it will be more famous towards the end of times. And we've covered what that means previously. Then we have water from wells, and then water which is melted, okay, from snow. So snow water. So if it snows now and the water melts, is that water allowed to use? Is it permissible to use for purposes of wudu or ghusl, i.e. purification in Islam? A melted hail water, so hailstone, is that allowed to use? And the answer is na'am. And number 7 is ma'ul ayn, okay, or man naba'. It's spring water, natural spring water which gushes from the earth, that is also allowed to use. So again, the 7 types of water is ma' sama, rainwater or water from the skies, it's mentioned here. Ma' al-bahr, sea water from the ocean. Wa ma' al-nahar, river. Ma' al-bi'r, water from the wells. Ma' al-thalj, okay, wa ma' al-bard, snow and hail. And ma' al-ayn, okay, water from natural spring, so natural spring water. These are the 7 types of water it's permissible to do wudu from, or have a shower from, okay, to purify yourself from, for other ibadat, okay, other ibadat. That's why here he's also, as I mentioned before, he's put this first, before wudu, before salah, before anything, because in order for any of those to be correct, this is one of the conditions for all of those. Therefore this needs to be pure. And then he'll mention the types of water. Now here it can get a bit confusing, okay? Now that we know what water is allowed to use, there's certain categories of water within water itself. What does that mean? Okay, so what did he say? He goes, the water is divided into 5 types. The first type of water is water which is pure in and of itself, meaning the actual liquid, the physical liquid of water is pure. And it is purifying for other things. Okay? And there is no dislike in using that type of water. This is the first type. The water is pure in and of itself and is purifying. Now, pure and purifying, there's a difference to it. Yes, the water is pure, but it may not be purifying, and we'll get to what that is. It's pure within itself, but it's purifying, i.e. you can purify yourself, you can use that water to purify yourself spiritually, i.e. for wudu. So there are certain times where there may be water which is pure in and of itself, but you can't use that water anymore for wudu. It's not purifying for wudu or for ghusl. Whereas there are times where you can, as in here right now, the water is pure and it's purifying for wudu, or it's okay to use for wudu, it's okay to use for ghusl. And here he mentions which is plain water, ma'ul mutlaq. Okay, that's what is termed in Arabic ma'ul mutlaq. So al-awwal tahir mutahhir is pure and purifying, غير makruh. It's not makruh. وهو ماء المطلق, and that is known as ماء المطلق. That is known as water which is plain water, just common and simple. It's water which has not been infiltrated by anything. There's no type of smell, there's no type of color, there's no type of taste which has kind of overwhelmed the water. It's water, and you know, just what we just call water, plain and simple water. Like you could even call that tap water. You could even call that water from the rain. Okay, you could say that's water from this river water. Okay, it's in its pure natural form, or it's something which has not been changed with anything else. For example, a water in a bottle, drinking water, that may have, yes, it may have certain chemicals within it, but it's still plain water in Islam. Okay, there's nothing rendering that water as impurifying, okay, or not purifying. Naam. Okay, so again, just to clarify, tahir is pure, i.e. the water liquid itself, there's nothing infiltrating it. It's purifying, meaning it can, you can use that water for wudu. The second type, okay, and that will make a bit of sense now. It'll make a bit of sense. The first type will make more sense now. The second type of water is water that is pure in itself, and it is purifying for other things, although it is disliked. Now, it's not this one, the next one, sorry, okay? So this water is pure and is purifying, but it is disliked. For example, and if it's a small quantity of water, a small quantity of water in the Hanafi fiqh is something which is less than 10 by 10 arm lengths. So the arm span, okay, 10, so 1, 2, 3. This was a common measure for the people before. Okay, dhira is the arm length. Okay, if it's 10 by 10 dhira, okay, if it's less than that, then the water is considered as a small quantity of water. Now if a cat's drunk from that, okay, we would say that's makruh to use that water for wudu. I mean, the wudu is correct, the water is pure and it's purifying, but in its purifying nature it is makruh. Now the third type of water, okay, the third type of water is pure in and of itself. It's tahir, it's pure. However, it's ghayra mutahhir, it's not purifying, okay, for other things. This is water that one has used to remove his minor impurity, or water one has used to make wudu upon wudu with the intention of attaining pleasure of God. Na'am. Now it can get a bit confusing, inshallah, we will keep it simple. But the third type of water, it's pure in and of itself, meaning looking at that water, it's normal water. There's nothing which has overpowered that water, nothing which infiltrated that water, no smell, no color, no taste. It's just plain and simple water. But I can't use that water for wudu. The water is pure, naam, but I can't use it. It's not purifying, i.e. I cannot use it for wudu and ghusl, a bath or shower. Can I use that water for other purposes? Naam. If I have a bit of a stain there, can I use that water to wipe that stain off? Yes. Can I use that water, for example, to wash the plates at home? Maybe after what we hear, what that water is, you might not wash your plates with it. But as an example, you could wash your plates. Naam. You could wash your clothes in that. Okay. It's pure in and of itself. It's not purifying for, again, wudu and ghusl. Purifying is meaning you can't use it for wudu or ghusl. Now, how do you know a water is pure and not purifying? He mentions a few things here. Because this is water that one has used to remove his minor impurity. So we have two types of impurity. We have major impurity and we have a minor impurity. Two types. Major impurity and minor impurity. Major impurity is that which, if you're in that state, you have to have a ghusl, i.e. it's the state of janaba. For the person who doesn't know what that means, it's basically when a person has a wet dream or has any type of intercourse, okay, that would require a person to have a shower. Or if a woman is at her time of the month, then that person, okay, would have to have a shower once she has finished, okay. These are the times of major impurity, when one is required to have a shower. Minor impurity is when you don't have wudu, okay. Now, don't get mistaken. A person could be in the state of janaba, meaning he could have had a wet dream, and now because he's had a wet dream, he is not in the state of wudu. And here we won't call it minor impurity because he has something else which is overpowering that minor impurity, which is the fact that he's had a wet dream. Therefore, that's automatically a major impurity. Okay? But a person who he's not had a wet dream, he's not had intercourse, but he hasn't doesn't have wudu, then that person is in minor impurity. So now if someone does wudu and the water which falls off their arms, the leftover water, that water now is pure, but it's not purifying. So let's give an example. Let's say a person was at the wudu area and there's something wrong with the drain. So he saw the water going all over the floor. That person got a bucket and put it in the wudu area and is making wudu. Now all the leftover water which falls down into the bucket, not the water from the tap, that fresh water, let's say theoretically that water is not falling, it's not going into the bucket, okay. So what's falling to the bucket? The water which is falling off your skin. That water now, if it's this much, if it's that much, regardless of what it is, that water which separates from you, okay, this is the water which we're talking about. This water is pure, but it's not purifying. Meaning you can use that water to wash things, na'am. But you can't use that water to make wudu. That's the first example he gives. The second example now he gives, okay, is to make wudu upon wudu. Wudu ala al-wudu. That's what that means. Now, what does that mean? Is if a person, he has wudu. He does wudu upon wudu. Meaning he has wudu, however, he does another wudu, okay, that leftover water is now pure but not purifying. Why? Because that second wudu now is another form of worship, it's another act of worship. He's used that now, okay? So any wudu water basically, any water which is used for wudu, it's not suitable for you to use again. That's what he's basically saying. Now let's give another scenario. A person is in, he has a state of wudu, he's in the state of wudu, he has wudu. And his friends or someone comes and throws water on him as a prank. And they throw water on him. He has wudu. That water which separates from him now is fine to use for wudu. Because he's not done wudu. Okay, although the limbs of wudu are covered in water, he's not done wudu because he's not had any intention of wudu. Okay. Again, this is a person who's already in the state of wudu. Someone throws water on him. The leftover water from him is pure and purifying, it's like the first category of water, because he's not had the intention. That's that scenario. The second scenario is a person who is not in the state of wudu. He's not in the state of wudu. And someone throws water on him. The water now which leave his limbs, that water now is pure but not purifying. Meaning that water that's fallen off him is pure to use for other things, but he can't use wudu, he can't use it for wudu or for ghusl. Why? It's because in the Hanafi school of thought, a person is not required to have wudu, is not required to make intention while doing wudu. So here, he hasn't got wudu and there's water on his limbs. So because it's touched the water's touched the limbs of wudu, it's as if he's making wudu. Does that make sense? Why? Because he's not required to have intention in the Hanafi madhab. Does that make sense? Now, back to the first scenario. First scenario, he's had wudu. Okay, he's got wudu. Because he's got wudu, he needs to now make intention of wudu. But whereas in this scenario, he doesn't need to make intention because he hasn't got wudu anyway. Naam. That's the third type of water. So the first type, let's quickly go back, okay, is water which is pure in and of itself and is purifying for other things, meaning for wudu and ghusl. The second one is water which is pure in itself and is purifying for other things, but it is makruh to use. So first and second is the same, but the second one is makruh. Third one is pure in and of itself, but it's not purifying. It's pure within itself, but it's not purifying the water. Naam. Number three. No, sorry, not number three. Number three. The next point is water when he stops a bit. Okay. So this is quite common. What happens is he might be giving you 5 categories, right? After the third category, he might go on a bit of a tangent. This was kind of happening here. Okay. He'll talk about the third category, then he's going to go a bit of a tangent, then he will come back to the fourth and fifth category because that tangent is about the third category. When does water become used? Musta'mal. Musta'mal means used. When does it become used? Okay. Water becomes used when it separates from your body. The meaning, the moment the water drops, fall off your arms or your face or beard or whatever it may be, a limb of wudu, that's when it's become used. So therefore what that means is no one can come, okay, and while one person is making wudu, the water which is dripping off them, hang on a minute, I'm making wudu from that dripped off water from you. That's not allowed. Okay, that is not allowed. That would be allowed in a certain scenario. Okay, which scenario would that be allowed in? The question is, if a person is doing wudu, he's making wudu, okay? And another person, B, comes and the water droplets which are falling off that person, he's using that to make wudu. We know that's not allowed, isn't it? Yeah, we know that's not allowed because that other person is doing wudu. The moment the water drops come off him, that water is now used. He can use it to wash other stuff, but he can't use it for wudu. Okay? But there is a scenario in which a person can use those droplets of water. No. You know? Think of the intention thing. Okay. He doing wudu. The first scenario, yeah. Second scenario. Now give me a scenario where a person he's making wudu from a person's water droplets, and his wudu is okay. The second person that's doing that. In which scenario would that be fine? There is a scenario. No? This is a scenario. If a person, again, the second scenario, it would be when a person already has wudu, but he's gone and he's washing his limbs of wudu, but he's not doing wudu, he's doing it because he's feeling hot, okay? He's feeling hot. That's you should be telling me that, okay? So he's feeling hot along the, he's got wudu and he's not repeating wudu, he's just washing the limbs of wudu without the intention of wudu. Naam, that's what you should be saying to me, naam. Okay, and then he uses those droplets, okay? In a place like that, it would be fine because he's not doing wudu, as our brother just mentioned. Good. Okay. We'll enter this part quickly, talk a bit, and then inshallah the end of it. Next one is ما لا يجوز الوضوء به, okay? That which is not permitted for wudu. So things you can't make wudu from. Now we talked about a few things that you can't make wudu from. Here he's saying the third type, okay? It falls on the third type. You can't make wudu from these things. One is not permitted to make wudu with tree water or fruit water, even if the water flows out by itself. Okay, someone might have, again, for just a thing I want to say, quickly mention is in fiqh, they mention everything. They tell you what water means. They'll give you the definition of water. They give you the definition of every basic thing. They'll tell you things that are like obvious, right? So some people might hear this and say, oh, but that's obvious, isn't it? Naam, it's obvious to you, but you don't know how the people are in this world. Okay, so the things that might be obvious to you might not be obvious to someone else. Therefore, they write every simple thing in a beginner's book. And then as you go up high level, they won't even mention half the things. They expect you to know it. Again, that's a big level book. So here he's telling you what someone would logically think is correct. He's saying you can't make wudu with tree water or fruit water. I mean, you can't get an orange juice and start making wudu from it. Because someone might have the understanding, okay, but it's logical, but maybe someone might have the understanding where, oh, I need to make wudu. Oh, there's an orange there. That's what is in it. The water, it became, that's orange in the water. Let me just make wudu with that. Squeeze it and I've made wudu. Someone could possibly think that, okay? That's why he's mentioned it here, and that's not allowed, of course. That's the most evident view. And tree water. But tree water, it's white. It's this, it's clear, sorry. It's clear. It's like, it looks like normal water. But it's the same process, okay? It's mixed with the plant and it's become something else. It's not plain water now. It's not ma'al mutlaq, okay? It's muqayyad now, okay? It's restricted now. It has another name with it. We have a common principle, they say. That which you can't call water, it's not water. Okay? For example, when you say orange juice, yes, it stems from water, but it's known in society as orange juice. Muddy water. That is going to come up, smell, taste, and all that is going to come up. It depends what's made it muddy. Okay? Now that, inshallah, you'll have to come next week to get the answer to that. Naam. Okay? That we'll get next week, inshallah. But even if the water's fallen off the tree and there's already a bit of orange juice there and it's come out without you squeezing it, you still can't use it, okay? And then he mentions وَلَا بِمَا إِنْ زَالَ طَبْعُ بِطَبْخ أو بِغَلَبَ. Likewise, it is not permitted to use water that has lost its essence, okay, through cooking or through the water being overwhelmed. Okay, here, what's he saying? He's mentioning that water, if it loses its essence, you can't use it anymore, basically. What does it mean by essence? It means it's flowing nature. It's nature. It's flowing. It's a riqqa and saylan, okay? If I get water now, and I put something in it, it's become thick. That's water with something. It's not really water anymore, isn't it? Okay? It's lost its flowing nature. The essence of what water actually is, it's gone. So once that happens, you can't use it anymore, khalas. Okay? If I have water and I mix a bit of honey with it, it's solid. Again, we're going to get to that. But if I mix something with it and it's dominated it and it's changed it, then simply it's not water. Now, cooking as well. For example, a soup. Let's say somehow someone creates a clear soup. We're going to get to taste, smell and colour anyway, inshallah. And it'll make more sense then. But what he's basically saying here is another rule is, if there's a cooking process involved or heating process involved, anytime there's any heat to anything, it merges, it becomes something, it becomes one. That's with any, not even cooking, that's with any process out there. You have to heat things to kind of stick them together or join them together. It becomes something else. It's not its original self. So what he's basically, if you cook, if the water goes through a cooking process, then not heating process, just water boiling, that's what he's talking about, but with something else, then we also will say that it's changed its nature. Okay, it's not what it was. Now, inshallah, that's that for this week. Inshallah, we're going to talk about the water more in detail, inshallah, next week. But this is an important topic. Sometimes you might have not even thought about a topic like this existing in a fiqh book. As when we learn fiqh, we think about salah, we learn about zakah, about hajj, but not water, or what water is, and but these things are very important. These things are also fard knowledge. This is also fard al-ain for everyone to learn. It's a obligation upon each person to inshallah learn. And na'am, it's a blessed thing, of course. Water is a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Na'am, we shouldn't waste it. We should Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give understanding of what water is. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give understanding of fiqh and the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.